Guys, we had bad economic reports. We had reports of selling. But why doesn't Bitcoin ever stay down? You've realized every time we've had a dip in the last couple of months, it's basically regained itself within a few days. Even that initial ETF sell gained itself back in about 2 weeks, and we haven't really had a slump for more than 2 or 3 days at the most. Today we dumped down to 69,300 and we're already back at 71.6 and we could be back at 73 by the time I stream again tonight. Why is that? Why can't Bitcoin stay down? Nothing's ever really happened like this before. Even during a bull run, when it dumped, it stayed there for a week or two usually. But now it's not staying there for more than a day, two at most. Well, there's a myriad of reasons. Obviously, one is the ETF. I've explained this multiple times. 30,000 Bitcoins buying pressure in the last week alone, and it's not stopping. And the momentum from the ETF buying didn't just drop off after the first month. It's actually building more and more. As more institutions get more comfortable, as they file for against the SEC and against other government agencies for the ability to actually buy Bitcoin and participate in the market. The Bitcoin buying is not decelerating; it's actually accelerating, which is why these basically pullbacks can never last as long and they're never that severe. So for those of you that are actually waiting for 50K during this bull run, you are not going to get it. You may not get it for years to come. I understand that some of you are like, well, it's going to pull back in a couple of years during the bear market, and it will. But will it pull back all the way to 50K? Because remember, we're nowhere near the top. If we get to 150K, 200K, the pullback may not even come to 50K, and you'll just be waiting forever then. But the ETF is not really the only issue. It is one of, I think, two or three main reasons that we're not really seeing a big pullback in the long term. But the other reason is, I've said it before, the economy is just not that bad and people have money. Now, you might not have money, but but you don't really represent the average American. Now, America does have about 40-50% investment in the entire crypto market and probably more of a chunk of the VC capital. So it does depend a lot on the United States. A lot of you are saying but the world isn't just the United States. That's true, but the money is here, and that's why the United States kind of controls the world economy. It's not in China, it's not in Russia, it's not even in the EU, it's in the United States. And that's why we drive the juggernaut, because we have the most money. And, despite crypto actually being very harshly regulated in the United States, that doesn't stop crypto companies from wanting to work here because of the large amounts of VC capital and other capital that we have. So it does depend on the United States. Let's just get that out of the way. None of this like BRICS is going to come up and take over crypto. Yeah, they're not really doing anything. It's going to be in the United States where it's decided. You realize that when other countries got ETPs, ETFs didn't affect the market at all. But when the US got ETFs, bam, we went up within a few weeks and we're continuing to go up. And you're seeing how much money comparative the United States has as compared to other countries that can actually move Bitcoin. This is continuous buying pressure. And not only that, people are saying other countries are losing trust in the United States. Other people are losing trust in the United States. Not so when it comes financially. There are many, many other people from other countries who have filed for the right, companies and high net worth individuals that have filed for the right to buy US Bitcoin ETFs. They did not do that for any other country's ETFs, but they want the American ETFs. So yes, the US dollar and the United States, in terms of these financial institutions, is still very, very trusted, no matter what you ever hear on the media. Because the corporations, the rich people, that's what they're going with right now. They're going with USA, and that's where all the money is actually inflowing. Remember, the Swiss ETPs, the European ETPs did not have this kind of effect on the market, whereas the American ETFs, you had this kind of effect immediately. You can try to deny it all you want, but reality is reality, and you can't deny reality forever. It is the United States that affects the market. And overall, the United States has actually weathered this economy way better than other countries, way better than China, obviously way better than Russia and Ukraine, but that's obviously another issue altogether, and way better than Europe during this post-pandemic years. The inflation in those countries has been much higher. Now, Russia has an interesting way of handling their problem with the war by raising interest rates double digits overnight, twice, to actually solve their inflation problem. It's more or less just delaying it. It's not really solving it. But the United States has weathered basically the storm better than all those other countries. And I know a lot of you would find this hard to believe, but there is a really large chunk of the American populace that actually have more money than they did a couple of years ago. And it's not a small amount. You look at the jobs report today. The jobs report is still very, very strong, despite the bad PPIs, which is why we went down. People still have jobs and people still have money. Now, some of you are saying, oh, people have part-time jobs or really low paying jobs. That might be true for a portion of people, but it's definitely not true for everyone. Because if that was true, people wouldn't be buying tech stocks or high risk stocks, and they're still doing so, which means a large portion of America still has a lot of money. And I've talked about this on stream. Which portion of America is that? I don't have money. Well, the thing is, I have a lot of friends that are in that portion of America. They're talking about people who are working in programming, technology, engineering. You hear about layoffs all the time, but there are so many people that are hiring. And of my friends that have graduated this year in those professions, almost none of them have had trouble finding good paying jobs. Now, if your grades totally suck and you're incompetent, that's kind of your own fault. But, most of my friends have graduated with 3.0 or above average GPA in engineering or computer programming, and they've had no problems finding a job, either in the high five figures or well into the six figures for a lot of the computer science people. For instance, Epic Systems, which a lot of my friends work for, but not all my friends obviously, is hiring CS graduates at over $120,000 a year starting salary right out of undergrad. Now, you have to work a lot, but that's a lot of money for someone that just came out of undergrad in Wisconsin. Now, if you're in California, that salary might suck. But in the Midwest, $120K per year will buy you a lot of stuff. And that's why I think some of them have decided to stay in the Midwest, because they realize they have to make over $250,000 in California to match that salary. And even in California, $250,000 jobs don't grow on trees. And plus, outside of the weather, it's actually pretty nice here. So the thing is, it's not only technical workers, healthcare workers are making a lot of money as well. Medical and healthcare technology, in terms of at least computer programming, AI, and all that stuff, they've the salaries for those kind of professions have vastly outstripped inflation over the last several years. Yeah, we had really bad inflation for 2021, 2022, but the raise in salary for technical program based workers has grown pretty massively, and you can hop industries as well, or hop companies as well, to make way more than the inflation rate even. And even if it's the inflation rate beats you 1 year, over the last 4 years, it's just basically been outstripped by salaries in a lot of those professions. Medical administration, even nursing is pretty good right now, I think. Doctors have always been paid a lot, and obviously engineers, programmers, stuff like that, they've been paid a lot too. And it's not only that, it's also people that are on the 401ks. People that have 401ks have seen their stocks raised by a whole lot the last 4 years because the stock market has been doing very, very well. And people on 401ks that have saved for decades, that's a pretty big chunk of America as well. So it's not just 5 or 6 people that are doing well. It's literally millions upon millions of people that are working well. And they're not the only people. Even some of the so-called blue-collar jobs are doing very, very well. For instance, plumbers, electricians, a lot of those trade jobs. I know some people, especially the college educated type, sometimes they look down on those jobs. Don't. They're making a lot more money than you are. At least a lot of you, you get out of college, you get a 50K job. Plumbers, electricians, they're making 6 figures. A lot of them are making 6 figures. And their salaries have gone way up too the last couple of years because, they charge more for their services. So a lot of their salaries have outstripped inflation too. Also, truck drivers, there's always a shortage of those. We hear about them on the news wanting to protest or whatever, but realistically, their salaries for truck drivers have actually gone up as well. So there's a lot of professions that have actually matched inflation in terms of their earnings. And despite all hearing all the layoffs, that's not the general gist of things for the American economy. The employment rate is very high. And yes, while there are part-time workers and people working multiple jobs, there are a large group of people, tens of millions of people, that are actually doing very, very well with their current job. And that's where that money is coming from to pump up the stock market. Yes, there is a lot of borrowing and credit spending. That's true as well. But there are just a lot of people that have a good chunk of money as well. And like I said, it's not a small portion of America. I think it might be actually a growing portion of America. There is a middle class in America, but it is shifting as to who that is. The factory workers, the coal mine, like the mining workers, like people in those kind of professions, yeah, they're not doing well. If you're structurally unemployed in one of the old professions, unfortunately, I had to tell you this, but you're kind of screwed because like you're being replaced not by immigrants, by the way. You're actually being replaced by machines, which is a lot worse because you can't deport machines. There's not going to be legislation that's going to be like, oh, we can't. These factories can't use these automated robots. They're not going to do that. They can deport immigrants. Like Trump comes in, he can deport the immigrants, but that's not going to solve your problem. You can't deport the machines, and he's not going to write legislation, obviously, or executive orders to deport automation. That's just not going to happen. And that has actually replaced many, many more jobs than illegal immigration ever will. So the reason that housing has actually gone up in price is because there's more demand for housing. Where is that demand coming from? It's coming from these workers that are actually making more and more, that are outpacing inflation. They're not really the ones complaining. Like, my parents were like, yeah, stuff costs more right now. But remember, they're one of those people that are on the 401ks that have been saving for years and years. And they're like, but we actually have more money than we did like several years ago because the 401ks have actually gone up so much. And there are a lot of people like them because my parents are not upper class people. They're not super rich people. They're people that have had a nice job for several decades. And now that they're retired, they actually have a large 401k fund that's continuously growing, especially with the stock market. And there hasn't been a stock market bomb out. I mean, 2008 was pretty bad, but they've long since recovered from that. And they weren't retired in '08 anyways. And it's long since recovered from that. It's going higher and higher, where like they're basically just living off the appreciation of that each month rather than, basically diving into the principal. And, like there's other forms of income as well. And plus, like I said, like a lot of the newer people that are graduating in like high demand fields, they're making a whole lot of money. Plus the blue collar workers in like fields like electrician, plumbing, morticians, things like that. And that actually might represent a good 20, 30, 40% of American workers. Probably not 40, but probably like somewhere between 20 and 30% of American workers. And as long as those people have money and they keep spending, prices aren't coming down because there's no reason for the companies to take the prices down if people are still buying their stuff. Especially like travel luxury goods. It's people that actually have money that are buying those goods. And they actually have money. It's not like they're not really buying on credit. They actually do have a lot of money. So it kind of sucks for the rest of everyone else that are actually getting left behind. But the big chunk of America that does have money, they're buying tech stocks, they're buying random stuff, they're buying cryptos, and demand is up. And unless somehow those industries completely fall off the face of the earth, which is very, very unlikely, that's not going to stop. And that's another reason why the crypto market is not going down, because people actually do have money to buy, these crypto investments. They have money to buy the ETFs. And those people with the higher salaries were the more likely ones to buy this stuff anyways, and they're not going to stop buying. So combined with the fact that now you have a regulated way to actually buy these investments, plus people that actually have more money than they had a couple of years ago, a significant amount, that means the price is going to continue to go up for the foreseeable future, at least for the next several months, probably the next year or two. And I don't really foresee the situation changing. Yes, there's a lot of doomsday predictions about how the market's completely going to drop out as soon as the Fed lowers the interest rates. But those predictions have never really been true. I think people have been predicting apocalypse or Armageddon for as long as I can remember. And I don't think it's ever really happened. '08 was pretty bad. But the thing is, very few people actually predicted '08. Now, there's a bunch of people predicting, we're going to die next year or the year after. And anytime people say that, it never really happens. And, people, especially in crypto, crypto is too full of conspiracy theorists. That's one of the problems with crypto. And none of those things ever really happen. So I wouldn't really take too much credibility in those things. If you just look at the macroeconomic factors, inflation is very sticky, but there's a lot of people doing very well outside of the inflation, and they make up a significant part of America. And as long as that's true, the prices aren't coming down and the crypto prices aren't coming down. Now, yeah, there is a group of investors that are in crypto that are kind of desperate, that are buying a lot of meme coins, hoping they pump up so they can get into that class. But I don't think that's the majority right now. I think like the people buying the ETFs are those that are fairly well off. And there's tens of millions of those people. So yeah, that's why I don't think crypto's ever really is coming down to any large extent for the next few months. Because simply there are a lot of people doing well and they have a way to buy crypto now that they didn't have before. So they're going to buy. And more of those people are becoming more comfortable with buying crypto on this extent. And I'm going to see like a lot of people I know start to come in with their extra money to invest in this asset class. So it's not going down anytime. And I think waiting for 30, 40, 50K or waiting for one of those like predictions from like Blockchain Backer or, like Capo or Datadash or one of those, waiting for their 3K or 12K, you're just going to miss the entire bag. So hopefully you learned something from this. Like and subscribe, hit that bell notifications button, and I will see you guys later.